Terry is a hopeless romantic who falls in love with an Okan girl. But everything changes when he doesn't understand what she's saying, as she speaks the Okan language. That sounds like your mom during a night with Johnny Sins. One day at school, Ken, the girl he loves, greets him and starts speaking like she's him and rap god, which confuses him, almost frying his Japanese bird. Just then her buster friend Higa walks in to help translate Kenzo Kinnan gibberish for him, which she always does during the day. Hai keeps translating what Kei said to Taraki, from offering him snacks to telling him how she watched One Punch Man and considers Sadama weaker than Yamcha. To show Hiya his appreciation, he gives her a drink thanking her for always helping him, and when she accepts it from him, she folds to his touches deep down. She has been helping him with the Okinawan language as a way to get closer to him. Just then Kian pops up and starts telling Higa how she should delay no further and present her sweet cheeks to Taraki. Taraki doesn't understand a word, and Higa is relieved by that. The next morning, while Keen is yapping more words in Okinawan to Taraki, they spot Higa in the crowd. But when Taraki calls out for her, everybody in the street froze and turns around to him. They'd all start asking him if he called out for them. And when he's confused, they'd all reveal that they are all named Higa. At school, the girls explain that Higa is a very common last name in Okinawa. The same way, Smith is the most common last name in the West. CA whispers to herself that he should just call her by her first name, but Terry hears it and agrees. Keen vouches that Terry should call Higa Kana-san instead of her last name, and when Kana translates, she flusters all over the place after school. On his way back, T spots Kana, and he is about to call her HGA again, which almost gathers everyone in their dead grandmother's attention. He composes himself to call her first name and screams out Kano-san, but to his surprise it also freezes and flusters everyone around him. An old lady confronts him, praises him for being a stud who is extremely romantic and teaches him how to say kanon correctly. As in Okawa, kissin means I love you, which almost short-circuits Kana's brain. The old lady tells Kana that she should start making babies immediately with Teruaki after his proposal, but Kana tells the old hag to shut her hole. Days later, Terry is faced with a dilemma of a crying child who lost his mama, and when he tries to cheer up the little jit, he cries even louder. Just then Ken and Kana pop up and help Teruaki handle the little weeping monster. Kian starts doing a ritual by patting his back while saying weird stuff. But when Taraki asks what she is doing, Kanon explains that it's a traditional Okan tradition. The Okinawan believes that when a person gets surprised, their soul drops from their body. So to prevent it from going to an ice sky, a shaman has to say the magic words while patting their backs to get their soul back. However, the little continues crying, demanding Taraki to find his mommy so he can drink her milkies. But like a true Okan, Ken calms down the little rat by saying that Okinawa is a tiny place, and as long as you're in Okinawa, you'll be your mother again. Just then the mother pops up to pick up her son. But after calming down, the little kid tells Keen that he doesn't understand most of what she's yapping. It takes Keen by surprise to see that the new generation doesn't speak the Okan language, and he calms her down as they say their goodbyes. Ken does it like a true Okan, and that is by stating to him that she will see him soon, as the previous generations of grandmas and grandpas don't believe in goodbyes, considering how small their island is. Later, while walking back home, T almost gets trampled by a massive bull, and it surprises him seeing this. Ken thinks that, just like the little they met before, Taraki drops his soul out of shock. As Ken is about to comfort him, he starts panicking, but unlike what happened before, she pats his back aggressively, which disappoints him. She explains that it's because adults have bigger souls, but hearing her say that is, as it causes Taraki to get flustered the next day. The whole class is shocked to know that Taraki has never had a CD and die a sugared fried dough ball. When he expresses how much he wants to try them, the V-class turns on him and they all offer to make it for him, which surprises Teroi. Ken explains to him that Okinawan has a habit called KYKY attack, which is like how your busted grandma would feed you too much food when you come to visit for the Okinawan people. They all have a deep desire of wanting to introduce kin food to an outsider like Teruaki, and it's because of their deep love for their culture. The next morning, Taraki is greeted by bag after bag of sugary balls waiting for him to gobble, and Kian also brings her batch made by her grandma. However, when it comes to Kana, she hides it behind her back and hesitates to give it to Taraki for the whole day after school. She is depressed after failing to give Taraki her S and die. but Terry pops up asking her if she's okay. Kana folds like a chair to his kindness and assures him that she's fine. Just then Kian pops up to ask Taraki if he enjoys eating Ken's sugary balls, but because Taraki doesn't understand what she said, Kana has to translate. She thinks of a scenario where she can use this to her advantage to give Taraki her S and die. But as she's about to do it, she stops herself realizing she wants to do it properly. So she hands to Wakei, her son, and die, which flusters Tootie. They all eat it together, savoring how delicious her S-andiage is. But suddenly more people from different classes, schools, and areas show up to offer Taraki their S and day. After hearing that Taraki never had S and AI, Taraki accepts them. And it ends with Taraki having the sugary balls in his mouth, happy about his decision to move to Ocala. Days later, Kana and Terry catch Ken watching a dude at the shore. And when Kana points out how Ken is in love with him, Tiaki realizes that he's screwed. He tries to convince himself that Kian, the girl he loves, is not in love with another guy, but when he looks closely, he sees that Ken really loves him, which makes Taraki depressed. Just then Ken mentions how much she loves kisses, and it hurts Taraki to hear that Ken's cakes have been conquered and that he lost completely to this Tudak Ken and Pickle. However, Ken mentions how she also loves how delicious kisses are in here Tiwi suspects that he's misinterpreting something. The guy then throws his fishing web and catches some fish. Khan introduces Taraki to the god, Tetsu, and he tells the group that they are free to take any fish if they want to. Just then Ken expresses her sadness about not getting a certain fish, and when Terry Googles the fish's name, he realizes that Ken loves this fish, and that kiss is also referring to the fish called Kizu. T feels embarrassed, and Kana introduces Tetsu as her brother. Later, Taruki pias himself at the beach while waiting for his class to arrive for the beach party. And when Ken and Kana arrive, Tara feels happy to see Ken in her casual outfit. Just then he sees Kona getting scolded, Tetsu, for not drinking enough water. So Taruki pops in to assure Tetsu that he will help Kana stay hydrated. That, and the group waits for the other classmates at the beach, but after half an hour no one shows up. Suddenly Ken goes full Dio and explains to Taraki and her JoJo form that Okan are known to be late, behind schedule, but she begs Taraki not to hate them for it. After a while the classmates show up and they get the party started with barbecue, but after they finish, Tui can't wait to swim and show Ki and his abs. However, the other chooses to joke around instead. As for Okinawan's, beach parties are less swimming and more partying. After multiple Okinawan activities, they end up not swim at all, and Terry confronts them about why they don't swim at the beach. Keen states her cheesy poetic and tells Tiaki that the sea is not for swimming, but they are there for them to enjoy visually. The next day, with KH already going home, Tiaki has a chance to go home with Ken, and despite the language barrier, he wants to do it, to get her sweet cheeks. However, it starts raining and Ken informs him that Okan weather is like women, dry in 1 second and wet in the other. Tiaki has an umbrella inside his bag and he plans to use it so he and Ken can have their moment, like other romance anime. But before he gets to offer, Ken walks away in the rain. Terry looks around to see other Okinawans doing the same. And here Terry sees that, just like your mom on a Friday night, Okinawans are never afraid to get wet under walk together. Wick, he gathers his bravery to offer his umbrella, but the weather keeps turning on and off, like your mom before meeting me, and it ruins his plans. However, it gives them the sight of a rainbow, which is what Okawa is famous for. Suddenly, Ken gets too wet due to the rain, and out of embarrassment, she leaves Taraki dry, which means he got blocked by this stupid-ass weather. Some days later, Terai meets Conan near the beach, and he points out how the bench she's sitting on is the place where they first met. It shocks Keen to hear this, and they tell her the story. Months ago, after just arriving from the mainland, Terue was reading Sha and Jump when some little saw him and interrogated him about how he got Shoman Jump for an ends, Shin Jump AD a day later. So for these kids, they saw Taraki as a time traveler for being able to read the newest, as usual, Boruto chapter. Just then Connor showed up to inform them that Terry got it a day before on the mainland, and the little Jits started crying due to how unfair it was. T gave them the book and Kana talked him in for the first time, but the wind blew her hat away to the sea. She tried running after it, but Taraki ran faster and managed to save it, and here kind of saw for the first time how cool Terry really is. However, he fell down anyway and got both himself and the hat wet. Teruaki struck a smile at her, and Kana got herself ski by dissing for Teruaki from then on as he fell in love with him. Then Tiwi left her, and Kana regretted not talking to him more or asking him for his address. But days later, he showed up at her class as a new student from the mainland. As a Ninen, T struggled to make friends with the others, not knowing what to say. But Connor was also the same way, as she didn't know what to say to him. Just then Ken showed up and struck up a conversation with Teraki. But he didn't understand a word that came out of Ken's hole. Here Kana saw her chance to help Teruaki, and translating for him became a way for Kana to get close to the man he loves. The next day T is taking pictures of Shaw's faces that he's a fan of on. The girls greet him. They look at his phone to see the shisha faces, but when the girls see trains that are in Tokyo, they get interested as Okala doesn't have any. But Ken is more interested in seeing where he once lived. Teraki expresses how much he loves shisha faces. But when the girls hear that, it gets lost in translation, and they hear that Terry prefers clapped-looking girls who look like your mom compared to Mia Khalifa. Then Ken teaches him the history of the shisha faces and what they resemble. And when Terry shows his deep interest in the Okan culture and keeps yapping along out of her love for her birthplace, later at school it's lunchtime, and just as Teruaki is about to go to the cafeteria, the school plays an Okinawan folk song from the speaker, causing everyone to start tweaking. Everyone starts dancing to the song, like their lives are dependent on it. But unlike before, when Okinawans do some weird stuff, Terry is not surprised, as he is now experienced with the oddity. However, when he sees Connor doing it, he is surprised, and she explains to him that the dance they're doing, such a seed, is done by every Okan whenever they hear a folk song. It surprises Terue to hear that Okan doesn't learn that dance from school, and it all inform him that they learned it from random people. From family members to random old dudes. Kian adds that Kachi is taught from the previous generations to the next generations, and that if Teraki ever has children, he also has to teach them the dance. She imagines Teraki decades from now when he has an own kid. But when she realizes that Teruki cannot teach the little jit how to dance, Ken starts panicking, demanding that Terry learns. She asks Kainer to help teach him, but she refuses to do so, is in her head. She's too busy imagining having kids with Teraki and living happily ever after the next day. Kei and cosplays a ninja, and when Teraki asks her what she's doing, she tells him that they're sneaking out somewhere naughty. She takes him to a parlor, and when Terry doesn't know what it is, everyone gets surprised and explains that an Okinawa parlor is a place where you get traditional food. After ordering, the food arrives, looking like it has more budget than Blue Lock. And during it, Ken keeps talking to Tiaki in Ainan dialect before Kana gets to translate, the others translated for Teruaki. And it keeps happening, which makes Kana depressed. But her friend, Y, notices it. Later, when the others buy drinks, Ye turns back to look at Kana, and she sees Kana happy, unlike before. When she's translating for Teruaki, Ye realizes what's happening, sits down and grins at Kana. When Kana translates again, Ye teases her, telling Teruaki that he thanked Kona by using his golden pickle, and Kona feels scared, knowing that Ei knows about her feelings for Terry and her desire to want his babies. Days later, they hold a festival where drums are played in CG Okinen and PC stands to it, including Kana. When Teraki pops up, Ye teases KNA that she should move her hips more. Ti Wakei feels glad that he comes to see this, but when he spots all the couples at the festival, he imagines himself and Ken as a couple, and they go on a date at the festival. Just then he realized that Ken is not among the dancers, but she's dancing like a clown instead, looking like low-budget Harley Quinn from behind. Ken's siblings pull up and they explain to Teraki that while Keen looks funny, her job is actually the most difficult, as she is tasked to be the whole dance floor master. They had that to do her job. Ken has to be very perceptive of everything, and it reminds Teruaki of his first day at school. He was a lonely loser who had no friends, but Ken was the first person to really become his friend, and it caused him to open up to others and be happier. And here T realizes he never thanked Ken properly. Then T sees Ken on her break, and while he's able to praise her, he can't look her in the eye. He tries to tell Ken about his feelings for her, but before he gets to do it, he hesitates and stops his own tracks. Teraki tries again to express his feelings, but he ends up laughing hard, seeing that Ken has repainted her own face. Ken asks him if he wants to say something, but Teraki tells her that he didn't, and he decided to keep his feelings to himself. Ken informs about the event's grand finale, and when Teraki takes a look, he sees everyone doing the Catch-I-Se as an AWA. Every event ends in a kachi dance. Just then Kana sees Teruaki among the crowd, and after gathering her bravery, she offers him to dance. He rejects it, as he feels that he's a bad dancer, and opts to enjoy the show. Kei asks Teruaki if he's enjoying life in Okola, and he credits her for it, stating that her translating for him helped him a lot. He expresses how he always feels that it's a burden translating for him, but Conan assures him that it's not, and that she likes doing it because she wants to. She expresses how she translated for him because she wanted to talk more with him, but Terry's dumb head misunderstood and thinks that she spent time with him because he doesn't know Okona. T expresses how he feels the same way that she does, and that she wants to learn more. While Teraki is talking about Okinawa, Kana thinks he's talking about her. He starts yapping about how he wants to be more hands-on, and Connor starts tweaking, thinking that Terry wants to jiggle her jug. However, when he mentions Okala, Connor realizes that she misunderstood and laughs it off. T steps up to the dance floor and, with Ken Anna beside him, he asks for a favor. Meanwhile, Ken and the others are dancing. When they look across from them and see that K&A is teaching while dancing with Teraki, and they dance until the night. The next day, after seeing Kian whistle like an expert during the festival, Teraki asks her to teach him and Kian agrees, but asks for them to do it on the beach when they get there. She explains that at the beach they can make as many loud noises as they want, and that it's the same beach where both she and Kana learn how to whistle from some random old people. While looking at the beautiful blue sea, Terry feels like not only he can whistle, but also that he can cross the ocean and fight his enemies to win his freedom. However, he can't produce any noise from the hold he calls a mouth, and when Kian tries to explain how to do it, no one understands what she's yapping about, and she realizes that she's a bad teacher. Just then Y suggests that Kana should teach them how to whistle, and Kian encourages her to do it. When Kana tries to decline, Y pushes her to do it, stating that it's their job as Okinawan's to teach their culture. She initially hesitates, but when she sees her sister crying on the floor, begging to be taught, Conan agrees. She then teaches them by using her fingers and showing inside of her mouth on what to do. But when she notices that Terui is staring deeply into her, she gets flustered, imagining him seeing the back of her gizzy gobbling throat. Y is starts laughing, and K&A quickly realizes why Yia pushed her to do this. But since it's already too late, K&A teaches them how to whistle while holding back her embarrassment moments later. Everyone can now whistle, and while they are all happy, K&A is on the floor dripping from both lips. They continue whistling along the wind of the sea, and when Ken notices K&A, she asks her to join them. It makes them recall years ago when the two of them first saw someone whistle along the beach, and it made Connor really want to learn how to whistle. Seeing Connor like this was rare for Ken, so she pulled Connor with her to ask the old man to teach them. After a whole week, Connor was still unable to whistle, and that was when some boys popped up to mock her, saying that she would never succeed. Ken defended her, telling this dumb idiot to shut his mouth, but after getting ridiculed, Con wanted to give up. When Ken saw that Connor was crying, she screamed her name, which caused the boy to fall, and told Kona that she shouldn't worry about what some stupid donut said to her. Keen promised that she would continue to help her out of a whistle, and Kona started crying, expressing how much she wanted to whistle with Keen. They embraced, and for weeks they practiced intensely, like it was a Rocky montage, and finally Connor was able to whistle alongside Ken. They celebrated together like they invented gravity, and they whistled in front of the boys, completely shutting him up. The boy was taken aback, and his friend revealed that he also couldn't whistle. The boy apologized, and he asked the girls to teach him how to whistle. Back in the present, Con laughs after recalling their past, and she talks about it with Kian, and they talk about their precious memory together. Comment, blow my whistle, baby. If you want a part 5 and if you like anime recaps like this, then watch this video right here.